Hey guys, thank you so much for tuning in back. This is Mansi Sangvi, and here's where we talk about product management, mindset, and career. If you're new here, definitely click on the subscribe button because that keeps me motivated to create these videos for you guys. In today's video, we're going to talk about the Scrum method and what are the ceremonies of Scrum. So let's jump right into it. Let's understand what is Scrum. Scrum is a method or a framework which allows teams to work together coherently. It is a way in which you will work with different team members in a cross-functional way so that you are able to learn and organize whatever you have to create in a product, learn from it, and then proceed from then on. It's more like a rugby team. If you have seen how people play rugby, they learn, they reorganize, and they do everything. So it's not like one member is supposed to do only one thing. Everybody works coherently to get to their common goals. Typically, in a Scrum sort of an environment, there are three main entities who are involved. The first one is the product owner. The second is the Scrum Master, and third are the developers. What typically happens is the segments are divided between these three entities to go ahead and produce their assets, have discussions, and then onwards move into the Scrum framework. For example, a product manager is responsible for making sure that the backlog is done correctly, and for that particular sprint, you know what are the items that need to be worked upon. A Scrum Master is essentially somebody who aligns everybody together to work on these items in that sprint and deliver it incrementally to the customer. The Scrum Master also makes sure that the team, the development team, is not interfered with any of the business noise, responsibility. Imagine if you're working on a particular item and then if somebody pulls you into a random meeting. That is not always possible being a developer. So you need to be extremely focused while you're working as a developer on certain items. So the Scrum Master is the one who is able to handle all these external noises. They align different teams and they manage the developers as well. This is what scrum.org has shared with us as a typical diagram. You have the product backlog from which you will go ahead and do the sprint planning. The sprint planning will then lead you to having a sprint backlog. The entire backlog is then developed by the Scrum team. The Scrum Master also makes sure that there are daily stand-ups or DSUs that are carried on. And at the end of the sprint, the entire product or the feature is gone ahead and given to the customer. So there is an incremental release at every point. After the sprint is over and the feature is shown to the customer or it is shipped to the customer, you also need to have something called as retro or retrospection, wherein you meet with the team and you make sure that whatever you had thought of has aligned well or not. Speaking of retro, let's now jump into what are the 4 Scrum ceremonies and how would you go about conducting those. I've also linked a quick thing for understanding backlog. So if you are a newbie in terms of creating backlogs, and if you've never created a backlog, go check out this video. In that I have detailed out everything about how to create a backlog, how to go ahead and create sprints, what is it that you need to do as a product manager to make sure you're ready for all the sprint ceremonies. The first ceremony is called as the sprint planning ceremony. In this, everybody from the Scrum team will meet up and they will discuss common goals. The first thing that the product owner does is reminds everybody the value of that particular feature. What is the impact that feature will have in the lives of the customer, or how will it improve the customer journey, or what problem is it solving? So that's the first thing that the product owner will have for the entire Scrum team. The second thing is deciding how will the chosen work get done. So if there are 5 or 6 things that the product owner has proposed to get done, Those stories will be scrubbed through, and then it will be decided who will be working on what and how will that story get completed. The ideal way is to go ahead and make smaller bits or chunks out of each of these features. Most of the features will have multiple user stories in it, and each of these should have a particular timeline which could be marked in terms of a numerical format or animals, however your particular company or your Scrum team decides to take it forward. One very important thing that you need to have is understanding what is the definition of done. So if a developer is working on a particular feature, they need to know what is the acceptance criteria after which that particular development is equal to done. All these aspects need to be discussed in the sprint planning ceremony. The second ceremony is called as the DSU, or the daily stand-up, in which everybody meets along with the developers to go ahead and understand what is it that they did yesterday, what is it that they are working on today, and if there are any roadblockers, and how to go ahead and resolve them in terms of can we make it better? Is there something that can be provided from the product owner? Are there any hurdles that we need to address while we are working on this particular item today? The whole idea of working in this fashion or having a DSU or a daily stand-up is to make sure that there is a lot of team coordination, there is trust built, and there is open communication. A daily stand-up meeting should not exceed more than 15 to 20 minutes in a day. So it's better to have it actually standing, which is why it's called as a daily stand-up. Ideally, you can do it with your team anywhere in the office, or you can do it in the cafeteria, or you can do it while sipping your having first cup of coffee when you go into the office. The third ceremony is called as the sprint review ceremony. In this, the product owner goes ahead and invites everybody to demonstrate what is it that they have worked on. Here's where all the items that were picked up in the beginning of the sprints Here's where all the items which were picked up during the planning ceremony will be reviewed, and the team will decide what is the definition of done. So if the items are actually done or not, this is where in this particular meeting that done definition will be determined for each of the features. The idea is to demo the entire feature to the product owner, and then he will sort of approve it. It's not a very formal sort of an approval process, but it is to make sure that whatever was given as a requirement has been fulfilled according to the quality criteria. The fourth and the final ceremony is called as the retro. In this ceremony, everybody will meet and they will discuss three main questions. The first one is, what is it that went well? The second is, what is it that did not go well? And third is, how can we make the next sprints better? So in this, it's basically a review of whatever items people were working on. How were the requirements that were given to the developers? Was there something missing? Is there something that the product owner needs from the developers moving forward? So the intent of retro is to make sure that we can work in a better way together as a team. A quick pro tip is to make sure that whatever items came up during the areas of improvement for your team should be put into a Trello board or should be put into Slack, so that you go back again in the next sprint reviews or retros to make sure that you've taken it as an actionable item as a team. So these are the main 4 Scrum ceremonies. Thank you so much for watching, guys. If you like this video, definitely like, share, and please subscribe, because that keeps me motivated to keep creating these videos for you all.